Hey everyone, Ali here. I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer about this episode. Now, in the first episode, we spoke about us relocating to Bahrain. Maza is currently in Bahrain, so he's moved there permanently. And before he left, we've done a batch recording of episodes, right? However, because I'm a big F1 fan and F1 in Melbourne's around the corner, we had a great opportunity with James, and we thought, we'll quickly record that one. Considering that Maza's overseas, he couldn't be in this one, so it's solo. However, after this one, the batch records will be uploaded and you'll see Maza in that one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and take care.
I've had a lot of pressure because I was part of the Ferrari Driver Academy a couple of years ago, and that was a Formula 1 academy that I was in, which is a big pressure, but they're obviously putting confidence in you to put you in the car. So at the end of the day, there's no extra pressure from the team, and it's just more of a motivation if you know you have a car that's going to be fast. If you want to get told by the team, we want you in F2, you need to perform massively in F3. Being top 3, being top 5, being at the front the whole season, fighting for the championship is the biggest point the teams want. If you're inside the top 3 of the championship, it's 99% that you're going to F2 for the season after. So at the end of the day, it's more just results driven and how you perform in Formula 3. I'm not trying to be the best Australian, I'm trying to be the best in the world, so it's a bit different. A lot of Australian people don't call me Australian driver because I left so early. I've never really raced here, so they don't know that I'm properly Australian. I am an Australian driver. Like, I will never be a European driver, but I have so many traits as a European driver because I've been there for so long and I'm in a very European mindset. Junior Formula, it's completely different. But in Formula 1, there are teams that are paying their drivers to be there, so it's a very different situation. If a driver is looking more likely to win a championship, they're obviously got to put all their eggs into one basket. But in junior Formula, there's none, because at the end of the day, I have to beat my teammates. If I beat my teammates, I've done my job for the season. All of my friends are racing people. All of my closest mates are in Formula 2, Formula 3, or Formula 1. So at the end of the day, you have to beat them as well. So it's so hard to have proper friendships because you're going to have to beat them. I'm sitting here fully believing I can make Formula 1.
Right. Welcome back to the Out of Interest podcast. This episode's an emotional one. I think it's my first podcast without my co-host Maza. It's going to be a bit different. I think in the first episode we've spoken about how we'll be moving to Bahrain. He moved a few weeks ahead of me, so I'm still here. I don't know when I'm going to officially leave, but he's in Bahrain right now, so I'm here alone. And the F1 Grand Prix is actually starting in Melbourne in, I think, 12 days, 11 days, something like that. And we thought, you know what, while all the heroes are coming to Melbourne, let's try to catch someone and do a podcast with. So on today's episode, we actually have James Wharton, newly promoted F3 driver. And we thought, you know what, let's get this young buck. He actually landed just this morning at 6:30. I feel so bad. Once he said it, I'm like, damn, man. Didn't know we were that good of a podcast for you to prioritize us. But James, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As you said, got off the plane a couple of hours ago, so might not have the most energy, but we'll get through and I'll try and do my best.
Hey, it's fine because it's Ramadan and I'm fasting right now, so I think we both are pretty out of it. I'm hoping you were like in business class at least.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, had a bit of a sleep, like good. I reckon 8 hours, which is good, which is solid for a flight. But yeah, I'll be fine. So
the funny thing is, like, every time someone becomes an F1 driver or F2 driver, F3 driver, they always relocate, right? You know that the teams are located elsewhere. There's no team in Australia, right? Like, no one's based here.
There's absolutely no one here.
Yeah, and when you got promoted to F3, were you still in Italy before that?
Yeah, so I've been in Italy now 8 years.
8 years.
From karting, I already moved to Europe, which was like already a crazy enough experience for karting.
Yeah.
But then moving to Formula, I actually had a really good couple of years because I was with an Italian team to start. Yeah. So it was perfect. I was living in Italy, 40 minutes I was at the team. And now for this year, I've moved to a French team, but still living in Italy.
It's a French team?
Yeah, now I'm having to fly a little bit more than what I used to, but still, it's an hour flight and I'm at the team. So had to move to Europe super early, like really early, to try and start this movement and try and get my career on the right track. But yeah, moving to Europe so early is quite difficult.
Yeah, well, what's up with that? Like, did you leave the whole family or did the family move with you?
The first 3-4 years I was with my dad over there, which made it a lot easier. But my mum and sister have always been in Australia. My dad has a company in Australia. My sister wants to live a normal life, let's say, and just be a normal kid. So she was never going to move. So first couple of years was with dad, and then the last 3-4 years has been pretty much by myself.
So you're 18 now.
Yes.
So you're like around 10 years old when you moved to Italy.
Yep.
That's like full commitment, man.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like the biggest thing is when you're that age, it's hard to like, let's say not like know what's going to happen. So it's more like you're getting led by my parents, like of what they thought was best for me. And of course, I just wanted to race really good guys and be in the world stage. So for me, it was quite easy to make the decision. I feel like if you did it at 18 years old, you'd be a bit more hesitant, but I had nothing to lose. Didn't even have a phone at that stage. I didn't really know the real world. Just moved there and lived with dad for a couple of years before going by myself.
But you did some karting in Australia though, right?
Yeah.
You Melbourne boy, Sydney boy?
Yeah, Melbourne boy. I live like 30 minutes away.
30 minutes away.
So 30 minutes away from the centre of Melbourne, so not too bad. But yeah, I did 2-3 years in karting in Australia, and I ended up winning in my second ever year of racing. So I was like, hang on a second, we can try and maybe take this a little bit further. So that's why I moved. But I did, 2-3 years in Australia to start.
Is it like almost mandatory to get out of Australia if you're gonna succeed? You have to be in Europe to be successful.
I feel that you don't have to go as early as what I did. Like it's not needed to be that early. You can probably stay here until the end of karting. Do like all of the categories in karting from when you're 7 years old to you're probably 13, 14. But then after 14, I feel like if you want to make it to Formula One, you have to go to Europe. To drive like supercars in Australia, you can stay in Australia. You can do a lot of things in Australia, which is not a bad thing at all. And I would do it in the future for sure. But for me, I just felt the best decision to, let's say, make my dream is to go to Europe. But you can for sure stay in Australia and do it here.
Yeah, I'd love to understand a bit about why you got into it. Now, some dads, right, like when I think about, if I have a son, right, I'm like, I'm going to invest so much time and money to this kid to make him like the next Ronaldo, make him the next Ayrton. So whatever the case is, did your dad have that mentality where I'm going to put everything into this guy so he becomes something? Or were you like into karting, or were you forced into like, how did that all go?
To be honest, I probably wasn't going to race. That wasn't the plan for my dad. My father raced when he was quite old, like 30 years old he started, so way too late to be like a Formula One driver. And I think just entry-level karting. But then he made a team because he's super passionate about racing and he's a business owner and he runs a company. So he wanted to, let's say, build a team, which is what he did for, I think it was like 10 years. And then when I started to race, he like put that to the side a bit and started to focus on me once I wanted to race. But at the start, I was going to the tracks with him, racing, like doing the practice sessions. And I wouldn't race because I was too scared. So dad like put me to the side. He was like, yeah, okay, we're just here for fun. We're never going to do this seriously. But then I raced once, and I think that's when his life changed completely because he went, hang on a second, we might have to put more focus into me. But at the start, I was probably not meant to be racing. I was just meant to be having fun and practicing. And then once he had the team, I started to race and ended up getting better and better throughout the first year. Because at the start, I was really bad. Like, I feel like I was probably one of the worst when I started. And it took me a long time to get half decent. So dad was a lot more focused on his team at that stage. But then after year one, we fully supported me after that.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know what it is. You'd probably be able to explain a bit better. A lot of racing talent comes from Australia. Like, you look at the global stage, there are a lot of Australians in racing. Like, why is that? Is it the facilities here? Like, how does that even come about?
Like, motorsport is completely different to any other sport where we can't, like, go to the gym and get better at driving. Yeah. We can get fitter, we can get stronger, but we can never actually improve on our skills. Like, every day we have to wait until there's a time to go on track or there's a place to actually drive, because with other people and other athletes, it's very easy to like get better. You go outside, kick a football or whatever it might be. So for us, it's a bit more like just trying to understand like what's best for you. And it's very hard to get into the sport, but I feel like being Australian, to get to a level, you have to be so determined at a young age. I feel like that's why we end up better at the end, because we have to work so hard from a young age to get to the level that the Europeans start from. Like, we go there to get better, but that's where they're starting. So they have like a head start on us, which is why I feel like sometimes we're a bit more determined and we have to sacrifice a lot more when we're younger, which I think builds us for the future so much more.
Do you see that? Like, when you're in Italy, do you see the mindset different between Europeans and non-Europeans? Like, are the non-Europeans more hungry for it, would you say?
Yeah, I feel like at the track, it's probably exactly the same for all of us. We're all there to win. But like off track, they're going to school on Monday or on Tuesday. They're with their family. They're they're seeing their grandparents every day.
Yeah.
Like someone from Australia, even from Brazil, is probably the people that we are closest to, where we've had to come so far that we're by ourselves at that point. So during a week, we're probably in a lot different mindset. One's just living their normal life and nothing's really changed, and another one is by themselves in a house in Italy, cooking by themselves. Like, I feel like that's where as I said, the off-track stuff is really doing a big difference on track. But I think at the track, everyone's just as determined as each other.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Was there another opportunity apart from Italy for you?
I feel like if you want to race IndyCar in America, you can go straight to America.
Okay.
But for Formula One, Italy's the easiest base, because in karting they have, I think, 4 or 5 tracks in Italy, which is very common that we're racing at. So as a base, you have to be in Italy for karting, or in the UK, which is really good as well. But mainly to be on the right steps and in the right races, you have to be in Italy.
So you recently got promoted to ART F3, right? Which is, it's on track to becoming an F1 driver, right? Hopefully, when you look at when you had that offer come to you, like what was your initial reaction? Were you like, okay, it's happening, right? Things are becoming more and more realistic. Like, what was your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, like it's quite hard because we're racing in the categories before, which we're putting so much time and effort into that we know what the goal is at the end of the season. We know at the end of the season the goal is to have a contract from a team. So we are expecting it, and especially if you're doing well, you are expecting it. But at the end of the day, you don't really understand it until it does happen. So for me, in the middle of the season, I was actually starting to become really good and really starting to have confidence in myself. So I knew it was very likely for 2025, but then I had one bad race, I think, and I was like, hang on a second, maybe we still have to do some work. And the emotional roller coaster is crazy in racing. So I never really knew. And then when I finally got to speak to Sebastian, the head of ART, I was like, okay, it's time to really lock in. And once that contract was on the table in front of me, it's like a really surreal feeling. And then the second part is I'm racing in Australia for the first time in 8 years, which is the crazy part about it for me. Being in Formula 3 is amazing, but for me, racing in Melbourne is even cooler. Like that is something that I've dreamed of for so long, and that was the biggest motivation to get into F3, knowing that it's a season opener now for the first time in a long time. So that was a big motivation to get it done. And once I did sign that contract, I was over the moon.
Because Melbourne is obviously where you were born, right? The race over here is amazing. The vibes are amazing. I go every year, and the tickets sell out like that. Like when I look at, because last year I went to the Grand Prix for Qatar and Monaco as well, right? Monaco is on another level. Sure. Like the funny thing is when you go to Monaco, it's so hard to go to the other races because the vibes in Monaco is like unbelievable, right? So after Monaco, when I went to the Qatar Grand Prix, I was like, what the hell's going on? Where's the vibes at? Right? I'm like, it ruined everything. The good thing about Melbourne is the outside vibe. It's like a festival. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm so excited for you. But you are racing there, right? Yes. F3 is coming over there.
Yeah, we are.
And that's the first time for you, as you said. Your family's coming.
Yeah.
Nerves are kicking in.
Yeah, to be honest, like it's more just happiness, which is sometimes I'm actually a little bit scared. Like I'm a little bit too happy to be racing. Normally I'm a lot more stressed, but it's like the emotion that I'm going to have off the track, as you said, like it's the biggest race from a fan point of view for sure. And being so far away, people really like appreciate it that we have Formula 1 and that we have Formula 2 and Formula 3 now, which is something we didn't have in the past. And I feel like the Australian people are really like appreciative that F1 are bringing all the cars there, all the teams are coming. And for me, the emotions are so high going into the week that I sort of need to like lock in a bit, maybe need to definitely lock in on Monday to fully be ready for the race. But for me, it's just a crazy environment. And I feel like Melbourne has the best supporters by far.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The vibes in Melbourne, unmatched.
But that's the thing, like I feel like you can finish the weekend and the Sunday afternoon is just crazy to watch the F1 go around as a driver as well, especially if I've had a good weekend. Let's hope at the end of the week I've had a good week, but the vibe's just crazy. 100%.
Very excited for you. Again, like I said, I'll be there, so I'll probably watch you drive around. Sure. Pretty exciting. When we talk about the Melbourne Grand Prix, right, you said, you got to zone in. How do you actually do that? Like, what's your process in actually zoning in before a race, before a big weekend? What's your go-to process for that?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm still probably learning, especially on this stage. Will be my first one on this stage, so it'll be a little bit more difficult. But in racing, we have like our engineers, our mechanics, our team managers. I have my physio who is around us that every weekend is the same thing. So it's very easy to like get in the zone and be focused. So for us as a driver, it's just about having your routines before a race, before a day, before like the night before, what you do. But for me, it's very, very simple. Like I have a very nice and easy, let's say, night before with my trainer, and we just speak about anything but racing, which is the main focus. And then you get to the track, you do meetings with the team. Then we do like a preparation, like a warm up, because at the end of the day, it's one of the most physical things you can do because of the duration of the races. It's a 40-minute race in Formula 3, which is a long time to be at 180 heart rate and have your heart really racing. So you need to like do a warm up on the neck, on the arms, on the core, just to be fully ready for the race. So yeah, we'd have a very much a routine every race, every day, every weekend. So it's very easy to get focused and locked in because you have the same thing every time. So it is quite easy, but the outside fans obviously is going to make it a bit different in Melbourne for me.
Do you notice the fans while you're driving?
The only time we notice is on the pit lane, like before we go onto the track, and then on the grid before the mechanics go away. Like you look around and you can hear the fans, but once we have the engine on, it's like everything stops as a driver. Like you just by yourself and there's no one else around.
Is it me or am I just tripping? Like F3 cars are very loud.
Yeah.
Right? Like way louder than F1 cars. Or am I just tripping?
No, it's true. But it's just because we don't have much of the electronics in the engine. Like there's a lot more just raw power and raw engine. So F3 is probably the loudest car apart from the supercar that is at the Grand Prix.
Like the supercars are another level. Those cars, I was like, why is it so loud?
Yeah, it's so loud.
But the F3 cars are like deafening. Like when you're very close to the road or the track and you're watching from the fence or whatever the case, and you're very close to it, it's like deafening. It's annoying. Like when the F3 cars were going around last year, I started walking out. I'm like, this is so loud.
Yeah, but I feel like Formula 1 was so much louder 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was something that I never experienced, but for sure F1 has changed a lot because now you can barely hear them. You have to actually be at the track to know that they're there. I think in the past you could be in my house 30 minutes away, you can nearly hear them.
100%. So when you've driven an F3 car, before the F3, what exactly were you driving?
So we drive Formula 4, first of all, which is like just a lot smaller engine, a lot smaller car, a lot smaller tires. And then there's like classes in between Formula 4 and Formula 3. So you can do very different ways of going about it. You can go to a British Formula 3. You can do what I did, which is Formula Regional, which is basically a bigger F4 car that is all European tracks and all European drivers. Or you can do like a Euro Formula, which is another type of the same car, which is just like a smaller championship that has a lot more aerodynamics than the car I drove. But there's a lot of things you can do in between F4 and F3. But yeah, the main stepping stone is Formula 4, which is obviously the starting point of Formula. Then you move to like a Freca, which is what I raced, Formula Regional, which is just a bigger car, and then F4, and then obviously you have F3.
Yeah. And the difference between F3 and the others, is it massive?
Yeah, it is massive. Like, considering I'm probably going 30, 40 kilometers an hour faster at the end of the straights now, which is insane, and nearly 80 kilometers an hour faster than the first year of Formula. So, like, it is a crazy experience that, like, you don't really understand it until you're driving, because when I first drove Formula 4, I'm like, this is so fast.
Yeah.
Then I drove the Freca, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Now I'm in F4, and in F3, it's another world again. So you can never expect it, but after a day as a driver, you don't even feel it, which is the crazy part of our job.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, so many people won't be able to experience that.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a selected few that experience it, and like you guys must feel so special, right? It's amazing, right? I could only dream about doing those things, right? I'm too old now, becoming grandpa soon. God knows what's gonna happen to me. But when I look at, F3, F2, F1, as a fan, as a follower of the sport, I'm taking a completely different route now. No. A lot of people in this day and age talk about how, going into F1 is almost like pay to win, right? You need a rich family, you need big sponsors, all that, right? You're in the sport, right? A lot of fans make misconceptions. I've seen so many YouTube videos, so many influencers talking smack about it's pay to win, pay to win. They look at people like Lance Stroll, his dad owns it, so he's there, blah, 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 blah. Would you say that it is a pay to win sort of situation where you need to be cashed up? Because, you're amongst the youth.
Yeah.
right? Do you see that the sponsors have a lot of play into it? I mean, as a team, like let's say I'm a team owner,
Yeah.
right? Realistically speaking, I'm going to go for a kid that has a good sponsor,
Yeah.
that brings money to the team,
Yeah.
right? Because teams need money to
Yeah.
function, to R&D and all that stuff, marketing, blah blah. What would your two sentences be on that?
There's more than 2 sentences, that's for sure. But no, but under Formula One, everyone is paying, or someone is paying for them. 100%. Under
Sponsors or
sponsors
family?
or
How does it
family,
go?
whatever
Okay.
it might be.
Okay.
Under Formula One, everyone is paying. To pay to win is not really the case. Okay, to be in the best teams, you have to pay more than obviously the team that is not the strongest. But at the end of the day, you still have to drive the car. Someone like Lance Stroll has won a Formula 3 championship. He's won Formula 4 championship. So
100%.
it's like, at the end of the day, it's still, you have to drive the car properly. Maybe you can be in a better team paying a little bit more. But on my side, like my dad has had to put a lot of money in for this year. But in the past, I've had sponsors, which is always helping. And the more sponsors you can get, it just makes your life easier as well, because there's a lot less pressure on the family side. Like for me, there's a lot of pressure on my parents to perform and to be able for me to do it. So for me, this year is about like being on the biggest stage, but at the same time, getting sponsors on board and showing them that I've done this for so long and it's what this is my work. This is what I do for a living. And this is what I want to try and do for the rest of my life. So for me this year on the biggest stage is about building my, let's say, profile and showing people that if you want to back someone that is willing to do whatever it takes, I'm the guy, and I'm the guy that's going to, let's say, put the most effort in. So it is definitely it's the biggest topic of racing and motorsport in general is at the end of the day, there's kids out there that probably should be in Formula One but can't be because they haven't had the budget in the past. So it's a topic that it's hard to get on, and it's something that you could talk about for hours, but at the end of the day, you still have to drive the car. So for 100%. Me, everyone can talk about paying and being in the right spot, but at the end of the day, you have to drive the car the best you can.
Because funny enough, you said Lance Stroll won F3. I was actually going to say, like, he's a talented driver. Yeah. It's just, because his dad owns the team, he's copying a lot of slack for that. And I feel for him.
No, but
right?
It's the thing, like, he hasn't done anything wrong.
He hasn't,
but at the same stage, like, he's good enough to be there on paper. But no one's, like, recognizing that. And that's why you can't be listening to the people that aren't in the sport and don't understand it, because at the end of the day, you can just lose your head, like, from what people say.
Is it safe to say that from now on, it's almost like sponsor and money prevails over talent?
To be honest, I think at the end of the day, no. I feel like talent is always going to prevail. Like, at the end of the day, Gabriel Portoletto, who is the new rookie driver in Formula 1, he won Formula 3 and won Formula 2. Mm-hmm. No one can deny he should be in F1. Yeah. That's my whole mindset about the next couple of years of my life is if I'm winning Formula 3 and Formula 2, no one can deny me a seat. So, yeah, at the end of the day, you can pay to be there if you want, but at the same time, if you're good enough, you're good enough. Yeah, yeah.
When we talk about sponsors, just for my benefit, right? Are those sponsors, like, do they go on the car as well? Or is it like, how does that sponsorship work?
As in drive the car?
No, like when a driver has a sponsor, does the sponsor like have their logo on the car, or how does that component work?
Of course, it changes sponsor by sponsor, but like if someone comes on board with me, they will go onto my car for, let's say, a certain price or I give something back, whatever it might be. But you basically have them on the side of your car in Junior Formula. In Junior Formula, we have no team sponsors. Like we have a couple. I have Richard Mille on my car, and a couple of other French sponsors for the team. But at the end of the day, we're bringing the money for the team, so they don't mind if there's a sticker on the car for you and stuff. So in Junior Formula, you have the car, the suit, the helmet, whatever you would like, let's say. And especially in F3, it's a lot more common to have it on the car because obviously there's a lot more media and a lot more cameras going on.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Right. Richard Mille.
Yes.
Do you have did they give you a Richard Mille?
No, I don't have a Richard Mille, but the team is obviously sponsored by them and they're in like obviously a partnership, but no, I wish I had one.
They don't give it to you? They give it to the F1 guys?
Yeah, but the F1 guys are at a different level to us.
One day, well, that watch is like, anyways, bloody expensive. Yeah. One day, when we talk about ART, a lot of big names have come from there. I think Charles,
Lewis,
Lewis came from there as well.
Lewis did a year or two with them as well.
Right, so there's a lot of pedigree coming from this. So you're part of I'd probably say, I don't know, you'd probably know better, and a successful team.
Yeah.
Right? So you'd probably think that you're, I don't know if, filling big shoes is the right word, but like you're part of a team that has generated a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Right? So does that add any pressure to you?
No, not at the end of the day for me. Like I've had a lot of pressure because I was part of the Ferrari Driver Academy a couple of years ago, and that was a Formula One academy that I was in, which is a big pressure. But as teams goes, they're obviously putting confidence in you to put you in the car. So at the end of the day, there's no extra pressure from the team, and it's just more of a motivation. If you know you have a car that's going to be fast, then going into this year, it's a brand new car for us, and it's the new generation of car, which is quite hard to know who's going to be fast, but once the team has signed you, you know they have the confidence in you and they back you every decision you make, every race you do. They're the ones that are there. But what people don't see is the amount of effort that mechanics and engineers put in during a day. So anything they do is all for you, and their whole 12 months is towards one driver. So they have so much support for you. So it's not really an extra pressure. It's just more of a, when you do succeed, it's just so much nicer to see so many people happy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Talking about the mechanics, another big thing that everyone talks about, apart from, pay to win stuff, is the car versus the driver.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about how the car's like 80%, the driver does 20%, right? What would your honest opinion be on that?
I think at the top level is probably like 70-30 at the end of the day.
The driver or car?
No, car. Because it's just like, at the end of the day, it's motorsport. Yeah. Like, the driver can only do so much, and at the top level, all the drivers are very, very similar and very, very close. Like, we're talking about hundredths of a second.
Exactly.
Like, the driver we can feel a tenth, 2 tenths. Like, as a driver, you can make that up and you can improve that. And especially, I feel the level I'm driving at the moment, 2 tenths is like crazy. So when there's a second from first to 10th, at the end of the day, the guy in 10th for sure can't do the same time as the guy in P1. So at the end of the day, it is motorsport, and at the end of the day, you do need a good car. So at the peak, it's definitely a lot more to do with the car. In karting, I feel like it's probably like 50-50 or 70-30 to driver. Okay. But in Formula, like, higher you go up, the less and less it gets.
Yeah. They invest a lot in their cars, man.
Exactly. But like in Formula
Millions.
1, Gabriel Portoletto will probably finish P18 this year in 2025. But he's easily able to be top 5, top 3 in a good car. So it's like, the higher you get up in motorsport, the more it's about having a good car as well.
And then some people argue the other way, where they use Max and Perez as an example, right? Because last year, it was a massive difference between the two. And then they were talking about how they were using that example to debunk the idea of where it's all the car and it's actually a lot of the driver as well, right? So when you look at a situation like how Max and Perez was, would you say that maybe Perez was maybe Max was taking the car like past its limits? Like, what would your description be on that?
I feel like talking about Max is a different thing to other people. Like, he's one of the best in the world, and he's a freak at what we do. Like, everyone wants to be like him. So at the end of the day, he's probably driving the car 2-3%, 4% better than what it should be and what it can do. But at the same time, the second driver, whoever it might be over the last 5 years, it's hard to drive, and it's hard to be at 100% of that car. So at the end of the day, I don't think the second driver ever does a bad job in Red Bull. And as you've seen, there's been a lot of second drivers, but I don't think they're doing a bad job at all. It's just more that Max is doing an incredible job. And at the end of the day, that's what's the difference. In ART, there's 3 drivers. The car is the same for all of us. So it's just who's driving the best and who gets the maximum out of it. So within a team, there is nothing to do with the car. It's just all driver. But different teams, there's obviously different cars. But Max is just a freak at what he does. Yeah,
being a Lewis fan, right? Usually Lewis fans hate Max Verstappen, right? But I've always been the opposite. Yeah. I think Max is an exceptional driver. I've been following F1 15 years now, for quite some time. I'm not one of those people that became an F1 fan after Drive to Survive. I've been watching it back in Mark Webber days, all those days, right? Like the OG days, right? And when I look at Max, I'm like, this guy has one job in F1. Yeah. He doesn't care about the glitz glamour. No. He comes in, just races. He doesn't let anything distract him, does his job, wears the same jean every day, and just comes, races, demolishes, and moves on, right? And I think he's an exceptional talent. It's like a once in a generational thing.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you. He takes that car over its limits.
Yeah, for sure.
And good on him, right? But coming back to, you know, what you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
right? Do you have a mentor? Do you have someone that you look up to? Do you have someone that you want to aspire to be like? What's your situation there?
For me, like it's very hard to say anyone in particular. Like we're all different and everyone has their traits and everyone does their things really good. But at the end of the day, I need to just look at who's there now, who is Oscar Piastri, who is doing a mega job in McLaren, and he lives 20 minutes from me. Like at the end of the day, like he's the one that is doing what I did a couple of years before I want to do it. So at the end of the day, he's the biggest influence at the moment. But at the same time, like being Max is all I want to be, is get that feeling in the car that I can drive any car fast, which is what I always try and do. And at the end of the day, there's no like real person I want to aspire to be other than just the best I can be.
Yeah, 100%. Now, after F3, it's F2.
Yeah.
Is there like a certain thing you need to achieve in F3 before you get to F2? How does that upgrade work over there, or promotion?
Like it depends how you want to approach it. Like if you want to get told by the team, we want you in F2, you need to perform massively in F3. At the end of the day, you can go with I can go with ART in Formula 2, have to perform and do it, or you can go with a not a strong team and go there in like P10, let's say in the championship.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it and want to make Formula 1, I feel you just have to get that call off the team to promote you. So at the end of the day, it's just doing a really good job in the F3 season, being top 3, being top 5, being at the front the whole season. Let's say fighting for the championship is the biggest point the teams want. If you're inside the top 3 of the championship, it's 99% that you're going to F2 for the season after. So at the end of the day, it's more just results driven and how you perform in Formula 3.
Yeah. Because ART, you said has an F2 team.
Yeah.
Is ART connected to any other, like connected to an F1 team?
No, they have no team really has a connection from F1. It's more F1 knows what the teams, who the teams are, who's a good team, who has good team managers, things like that. The F1 teams know the like junior Formula teams, so it's not like they've got partnership. It's not like if you're with ART, you're with Mercedes or something like that. It's more just they know who's fast, they know who's good, and if that team manager goes to them and says, okay, this driver is doing this, they believe it and they take all that credit. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's no like partnerships between teams and Red Bulls with that person. It's not like that.
Are there any other Aussies in F3?
No, this year I'm actually the only Australian in F3, and I have been for the last couple of years in my categories. There's a lot of Australians, but I seem to be the only one every time.
How about F2?
F2, there was Christian Mansell for this year.
There is, right?
Yeah, but Christian is not going to do the season. But there's no one in F2.
That's good for you though, because I feel like there's always an Aussie in F1.
Yeah, no,
like it's like a staple.
No,
right?
it's perfect for me.
It works out perfect for you if you think about it, because by the time an Aussie comes into F3, F2, hopefully you could like go up the ranks.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this could actually work out amazing for you.
Yeah, no, that's like, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be the best Australian. I'm trying to be the best in the world. So it's a bit different. But like I moved to Europe so early that a lot of Australian people don't call me Australian driver because I left so early. Like there's a lot of people here that they know who I am, but I've never really raced here, so they don't know that I'm properly Australian. So
do you get the Australian flag or the Italian flag?
I have an Australian license and an Australian, like I am an Australian driver. Like I will never be a European driver, but I have so many traits as a European driver because I've been there for so long and I'm in a very European mindset. So I can sort of call myself European driver as well, but yeah, I'm fully Australian.
In Italian now?
No, I can barely speak Italian.
You've been there for 8 years.
Yeah, like I can get through a conversation, but I'm not going to say I'm fluent in Italian. I'm not. Like at the end of the day, I'm not. But yeah, I've learned quite a bit and I can talk to the team, but now I've got a French team, so I have to learn French. So
that's true as well.
Exactly.
So the team, do they know English?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like over the last couple of years, it's changed massively, but every team speaks English.
Okay.
Nearly every engineer is fluent in English and speaks better English than some Australians.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, we're very lucky with the language side because I have so many friends that can speak 5 languages because they're from different parts of Europe that have had to learn Italian, they've had to learn English to talk with the team. So we're very lucky, and Australians and Americans and English people are very lucky because we don't really have to learn a language, which is it's quite lazy from us, but at the end of the day, it just helps us so much where we can more focus on other things than learning languages.
Now, when we look at Lewis changing to Ferrari,
Yeah.
which was a surprise for me. But now I have to be a Ferrari fan, unfortunately, because I follow him. So bye Mercedes. But because you live in Italy,
Yeah.
we think Italy's buzzing because Lewis is there, the Tifosis. I don't know how connected you are to that side of things. I don't know if you have visibility over it. Has there been a massive impact in the motorsport world, especially in Italy now that Lewis is over there?
For sure, it's changed something. Like when I was at Ferrari 2 years ago now, Ferrari's its own thing anyway. They don't need a good driver or anything. They can just be Ferrari. But now they've got Lewis Hamilton. It's just times 100, because at the end of the day, like, he's the biggest influence in racing and the biggest influence in motorsport, and now outside of motorsport as well. So I think the Italian people have gone crazy about it for sure. But at the end of the day, Ferrari were so amazing before Lewis, and at the end of the day, after Lewis, there's still got to be Ferrari. So Ferrari's huge, but right now it's probably the biggest it will ever be, just because they have one of the biggest influences in racing ever.
Have you even met him?
Lewis, I've never met. I've met a couple of Formula One drivers like Charles, like Oscar, but I've never, ever like been close enough to Lewis to meet him, which I would love to one day, and it's a big thing to be able to say you've met.
You probably would
Lewis
in Melbourne, no?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're doing their job, we're doing our job, so it's very hard to, let's have a good conversation, but I would love to over the next couple of years for sure.
Out of all the F1 drivers you met, which one was the most down to earth?
I think it's so easy to say Oscar is one of the most humble people there is in the world, and now Jack is there. I don't really say Jack is an F1 driver because I've known him for so long, so I keep forgetting Jack's in Formula One now, which is crazy because he's one of my close friends. So yeah, Jack and Oscar, but at the same time, Australians, I just feel like we're very humble in what we do. Like, we've been brought up in a way that I feel like we always appreciate what we're doing. So Australians, for me, are the most humble people out there, and I hope to say I'm a bit the same. But yeah, Oscar and Jack are so down to earth.
Do you have like Oscar's number?
I can. Yeah, especially Jack. Like Jack, I have a lot of contact with, and yeah, like they're so easy. And if I ask them a question for next week, they'll answer, and they'll for sure help me.
I'm so jealous. What a life! Wait, look at that, man. But anyways, F1 Melbourne, as we spoke about, it's starting in a week or two. Your predictions for the Melbourne Grand Prix. There's a lot of talk about how McLaren's going to be very strong this year, how Lando's going to win the championship. When I look at last year, I feel like there was a lot of. Actually, no. Before I get into that question, I want to quickly talk about the teammates.
Yeah.
Now that I brought up Lando and Oscar, last year there was a lot of team orders, right? There was like the buzzword for McLaren. When it comes to like F3 or the races before you did that, are there like such thing as team orders there where they favor one driver over the other? They make sure they behind doors that I don't know if you should even be able to tell us if it is, but like, do they behind the doors be like, hey, make sure that you look after this guy, you don't try to bump him off the road or anything like that?
In junior formula, none. In
Okay.
junior formula, there we're all for ourselves, and at the end of the day, in junior formula, our teammate's the person we have to beat. So in junior formula, it's completely different. But in Formula One, the teams that are paying their drivers to be there, so it's a very different situation where if a driver is looking more likely to win a championship, they're obviously got to put all their eggs into one basket, which is why Formula One is Formula One, because it's such a big thing in the world. But in junior formula, there's none, because at the end of the day, I have to beat my teammates. If I beat my teammates, I've done my job for the season. So in junior formula, the team obviously say before the race, let's all stay calm, let's like help each other and be respectful to each other. But at the end of the day, it's the biggest competition on the track.
Yeah. So let's say you were Oscar last year. Would you have following team orders? Would you rebel against the team? Because like there's so much on the line, right? And everyone wants to be the great. Everyone wants to win a championship, right? But is there like a? Would you know if there's like in people's contracts where they need to listen? Like, what's all the politics behind all this? If you know.
No, I think like at the end of the day, I would do what Oscar did last year, because you have to think about the long-term future of your life and your career. You want to be there for as long as possible to be able to win a championship. So I think Oscar knew very much that he wasn't going to be able to win the championship last year. So to keep the team on side and keep the team happy with you is the most important thing. But Oscar's job now is to go into 2025 and beat Lando in the first race to put him as the number one driver. So I don't think it's an issue, and I think that's our sport. Like at the end of the day, everyone has so much money in it and they want to do the best job for the team. So I think it's fine and it's not really an issue. At the end of the day, if you want to be the number one driver, you can be, and that's by beating your teammate. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I just feel like the fans are very emotional.
Yeah, the fans can be emotional, but at the end of the day, they're not driving and they don't understand how the driver needs to be there for the years after. And Oscar's obviously cemented himself into McLaren by doing it. So he's in a good spot for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Because like since Drive to Survive, right, there's been a lot of fans coming into F1. Right, some fans don't even know what's going on. Right, like I'll give you an example. When I was at the Melbourne Grand Prix last year, the warm-up lap, the formation lap was happening, and everyone in the grandstand started jumping and cheering. Yeah, let's go! They thought the race started. Like they don't even know that the formation lap is happening. Yeah. Like there are so many fans that don't know the rules, that don't know how teams work and all these sort of things. Because back in the days, right, when you had Webber and Sebastian, it was clear Sebastian was the number one driver, right? So like as an old fan, you know this. It's part of life. It's part of the team, right? Something that would be interesting is, you know, how Charles and Lewis goes, because they're two massive names. I don't know how Ferrari's going to do that. But like since Drive to Survive, an influx of fans have come in that don't really understand the sport. Even though it's grown in popularity, which is amazing, right? Drivers are celebrities now. Like, girls cry over these guys. It's unbelievable, right? People, like, I don't know if you've seen it. You probably have, you know, but like in Melbourne, people, I think they'll start lining up at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. so they could run to the Melbourne Walk to get their photos, selfies taken. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable how F1 has become. Do you see that on a F3 level as well, or no one cares about the people other than F1?
I think F3 is crazy as well. Like, at a race in Formula 4, we have fans now. It's insane. Like, we actually have more. I had more fans. Or the championship had more fans at the track last year than what we will this year inside of the paddock. Because in the categories before, you can come in the paddock and be next to the car before we're getting ready.
Okay.
So that's where all the young fans are going nowadays, because it's easier to get closer to the driver. Yeah. So we've had like 200, 300 people outside of our tent in the categories before Formula 3, just because it's the easiest spot to get to. But like from an outside point of view, the amount of fans we have now is crazy. Even from F4, like I had a lot of fans coming up to me for pictures in Formula 4. I can't like imagine what it is in Formula 1.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like a couple of years ago, because right now it's like impossible to actually, unless you have the paddock passing up and close. If you have a normal ticket, you run to the Melbourne Walk and it's usually packed. So you can't even like take proper photos of the drivers anymore, right? But coming back to my original question of Melbourne Grand Prix around the corner, your predictions. Right. What's your? Are you rooting for the Aussies? Are you rooting for someone else? Are you contracted obliged to root for someone else? Like what's the go here?
Nah, for me it's just Oscar. I want Oscar to win the race. Like at the end of the day, we've had no Australian win the Grand Prix. Over however many years it's been, no one's ever won. So
no Aussie won the Melbourne.
No Australian, even in F2, F3, no one's ever won.
Wow. Okay,
in Australia. I didn't know that. So. Of course, I'm supporting Oscar, but at the same time, I'm so glad my race is first on Sunday, so maybe I can be the first one. But Oscar for me, he has the car to win. So for me, Oscar, and then I hope Lewis obviously does a really good job straight away and is able to fight for that 8th World Championship this year. So hopefully he's P2, and then P3, I think he's got to be Max. He's got to be on the podium at some stage, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he'll still win a few, no matter how that car is. Good, bad, he's still going to win something, that guy. Like, he has to.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like almost obliged to win something, right? Obviously, Oscar, big fan of Oscar. I remember, when I was at the Melbourne Walk a couple of years ago, before he got into F1, I think it was 3-4 years ago, I was at the Melbourne Walk like a fangirl, and Oscar just stopped there. I think it was with Alpine back then. He wasn't even an F1 driver, just Alpine reserve driver, I think it was. Yeah. And he just stopped in front of me giving an interview, and I was just staring at him. I still have it on my phone, the whole record right was there. No one literally cared about the guy back then, right? But now in popularity in Australia, everyone's crying over Oscar. And it's Oscar and Daniel were driving at the same time, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so even then, Daniel's massive in Australia. Like,
huge.
That guy is huge.
Yeah.
And when I saw when Oscar came in, how split it was, how much popularity Oscar got was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? Why did he get so much popularity straight away?
I just think because at that stage it started to become popular in F2 and F3, and he was obviously so popular in F3 and F2 before he got to Formula 1 that there was already all of these fans that knew who he was. That's why I feel like right now is massive, and I feel like if you're winning, everyone's going to be supporting you anyway. So it's much easier, and he's done that. That's why he has a big fan support, but at the same time, he's one of the nicest people in the world. So it's very easy to support someone that's nice.
Yeah, because, you know, that controversy happened with Alpine.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened there.
No,
he got a lot of popularity through there as well. That just put him on the map. Do you sometimes low-key that something controversial will happen to you, so you gain a lot more?
Not really, to be honest. I don't want anything controversial to happen to me, but I just want to do things like this so people know who I am.
Yeah. Now, coming back to quickly on F3, again, this is for my benefit. Are there like drivers that get support from F1 teams?
Yeah.
Behind, like, are there teams that in F1 that favor F3, F2 drivers? They maybe invest in them, things like that? Yeah,
I had in 2021, 22, 23, I was a part of Ferrari Driver Academy.
Yeah, okay.
So Formula 1, they have a junior program, and I think nearly every team on the grid has a junior program.
Yeah.
And they obviously choose the driver to support, and they invest in that driver. Same as like Kimi Antonelli, he was a Mercedes driver from 11 years old. So he was a part of the academy from 11, and they took him all the way until Formula 1. So yeah, there is probably like maybe 4 or 5 in Formula 3, and then 4 or 5 in Formula 2.
And you yourself?
No, I left Ferrari, or we parted ways in 2024. So at the start of 24, I parted ways with them.
Okay.
And right now I'm a free agent and on the market, whoever wants me. But yeah, at the end of the day, I feel like now it's more important to win than being on an academy, because Porcelets had no one until F1. So he just did it all by himself, which is what I've sort of gone to now, is like, I want to just do the best I can. And if someone comes to me, they come to me. But if you're winning, it's just easier.
Yeah, you touched on Kimi, right? I think he's 18.
Yep.
18 and 19 or something.
He's a month younger than me, and we raced the first year of F4 together. We were teammates in the first year.
How is he?
He's lovely as well, but he's one of the... He doesn't know he's famous yet. Once he realizes, I think he'll change, but he has no idea. He has no clue. No clue at all.
I was seeing some videos of him. He acts like a very... I don't know if innocent's the right word, but he acts so friendly. Like he's still like a nobody, if that's the right word.
That's what I say. He doesn't know he's famous yet.
It's unbelievable.
He has no idea.
He's so friendly and just...
No idea.
I was like, wow, man. It's like acting like a kid. I love it.
No, but I feel like he's a kid as well, because I feel like he's my younger brother. Like, it took him until signing the F1 contract for me to feel like he was like a Formula 1 driver. Before that, I thought he was just my little brother that I would be there if he needed to talk to someone or go play around with him or whatever. He's so down to earth, and as I said, has no idea he's famous yet.
On honest feedback, do you think he's too young to be in F1?
No, he's good enough. Like, there's no reason why he shouldn't be there. Like,
really?
At the end of the day, he's good, and he's mature enough to drive a car fast, and that's all you need to be. You can look at Max Verstappen, who went there at 16. That was too early.
Yeah.
But at least Kimi, he's fully ready, and as I said, he's been on the path from the same age as me, so he's had the preparation to be there, and he deserves to be there for sure.
I didn't know you were that close to Kimi, or teammates rather. Do you still in contact with him?
Yeah, I probably speak to him every couple of weeks. So a lot less now, because he's a little bit busy with what he's doing. Yeah, he's a Formula 1 driver. But no, I'm super close with him. And at the end of the day, I feel like, again, motorsport is so much different, where we're best friends with our biggest enemies. Like,
that's true.
All of my friends are racing people. All of my closest mates are in Formula 2, Formula 3, or Formula 1. So, like, Ollie Bam and I lived with Ollie for 3 years.
Right, okay.
And I'm, like, super close with them, but at the end of the day, you have to beat them as well. So it's so hard to have proper friendships, because you know you're going to have to beat them at some point.
Even Ollie, he's so down to earth. Literally acts like a... Just... Again, he even looks like someone that doesn't know he's famous yet. He's like, so friendly, unbelievable.
Me and Ollie will go for dinner next week.
Okay.
And everyone will come to the table, but he won't like change. Like, that's who he is, and he obviously just takes it on board.
Yeah, and he gained massive popularity. I think it was in Singapore when he took over. for that
Yeah, in Jeddah.
for that race.
Yeah, in
Jeddah.
with Ferrari.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
but that
night
kickstarted
race,
his
yeah.
life for sure.
That was a great experience. So you obviously want Oscar to do well in the Melbourne Grand Prix.
Yeah.
You want him to win the championship as well.
Of course, I want Australians to do well with
Yeah.
it. It always helps me if Australians are doing well because people try and find the next Australian.
Next Aussie,
so
yeah.
for him to win the championship is perfect for me as well.
Yeah. Also want to quickly touch on I don't know how to word this without putting you on the spot because I don't want you to lose opportunities down the line. I don't want you to talk shit about teams, right? Now, usually when an F2 driver gets into F1, I think Ollie's driving for Haas, right? People usually say, okay, he's just killed his career, right? With Stake right now, Sauber, with Haas, even Williams, for example, right? People are like, okay, if they get an F2 driver, they're going to perform bad, and that's going to be a bad look on them, and no big team's going to want them, right? Is that like a fear amongst F2, F3 drivers that, damn, I don't want to go into a bad team and just kill my career in a year or two?
But I feel like it doesn't work like that at all. Like, any one of those F2 drivers would be in Sauber if they could be. Anyone. Yeah. Any single one of them would go into that Sauber car tomorrow. Like, any person would be in any team in Formula 1 because at the end of the day, Ferrari know if you're beating your teammate in Williams and performing in Williams, you deserve to be in their car as well. So it doesn't matter what car you're in, what colour the car is, who you're with. Everyone wants to be in Formula 1, even if it's not with the best team, because at the end of the day, if you're performing with a team that shouldn't be performing, it's just beneficial to you. So it's completely the opposite to what it actually is.
That's fair. I mean, I don't blame you for saying anyone will want to be in Haas or Sauber. It's everyone. F1.
Yeah, exactly.
It's F1. You're not saying no to that.
I would jump in that car right now. Like, absolutely.
It's unbelievable. Like, 20 drivers. I mean, there is a new team joining Cadillac apparently. I think in a year or two.
Yeah, next year.
I think they'll probably get an American in there. What are the cases, right? So it's growing. It's a growing sport, and people have rivalries. People have friendships. Sometimes Drive to Survive makes it a lot more dramatic than it is. Yeah. Do you have any rivals in F3 coming up? Is there someone that you want to like kick the shit out of on the track? What's your thoughts?
No, to be honest, probably my best mate who's in another team. Probably want to beat him, but no, at the end of the day, I'm there to beat everyone. And one of my teammates this year, we were fighting for a championship 2 years ago to the last race, last lap. So we have a bit of history. We crashed on the last lap. I ended up winning the championship because we crashed. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of rivals.
Was that by purpose? Or?
No, it wasn't on purpose, but it helped me massively. But yeah, me and him have been rivals for a very long time, and at the end of the day, the top 5 have raced each other for the last 10 years. So we're all rivals, but anyone can win there. So everyone's your rival.
Do you think there's a underrated driver in F1 right now that people underrated that people overlook a lot?
I don't think there's anyone underrated, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think, for me, Alex Albon should have had more time in the Red Bull car because I really, really rate him as a driver. But at the end of the day, I think if you're in Formula 1, you're in Formula 1, so you're best in the world. So I don't think anyone's underrated for sure.
How about overrated?
Can't answer that question now.
I'm assuming you're not allowed to, maybe?
I don't want to answer that question.
Like, for me, when I look at overrated drivers, there's a couple, I reckon. But, yeah, let's not get into that thing.
No, exactly. We don't need to get into that one. Yeah.
But, your plan is obviously get into F1.
Yeah.
Right? To wrap things up, your plan is obviously get into F1.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that's a realistic target? Right? Or do you think that maybe getting into like a Formula E, or because you look at Nick De Vries, right? Yeah. This guy was on track to become people were predicting him to be like a multiple world championship winner in F1. Yeah. I think he had one season or half a season, whatever the case he had was, and then palmed off to Formula E. I don't know where he's at right now. He's still there?
Yep.
What's a realistic goal for you, right? Obviously, everyone wants to get into F1. If F1 doesn't work out, what's another path that you would love to take?
No, but like at the end of the day, as I said, if you're winning, you're in Formula 1. So it is realistic for anybody. Okay. And I'm sitting here fully believing I can make Formula 1. Right. But I will definitely have option B, option C, option D of moving and being a professional racing driver and whatever that might be. But my plan is to put everything I have in the next 3-4 years and then just divert if I need to Formula E, or even come back to Australian race supercars and be the best that's ever been in supercars, which is a goal that I had when I was a kid. That's what I wanted to do when I was young, before I knew I had the capabilities of being in Formula One. So there's so many options nowadays, and for me, goal one is Formula One, and if not, there's a lot of other ways to do it.
You're pretty much bound to be into something, right?
Yeah, like I think I can confidently say I'll be a professional racing driver after Formula One or in Formula One, because I've done enough in the last 5-6 years for people to already see. I have a team in supercars that I would come back to. We've already spoken to him for 10 years that he wants me, and he wants me to drive for them. So there's always other options, and I'm sure I'll be a professional racing driver. It just depends on what it.
Yeah. To wrap things up, you're on F3 now. What track are you looking to drive in the most this year?
There's a track called Albert Park, Melbourne. That one.
That one, like realistically?
Yeah, realistically, it's the one I want to drive most. And then, of course, Monaco, as you said before, but that's just a different.
Have you driven in Monaco?
Never been to Monaco.
You've never been to Monaco?
So the first 4 races, I haven't been to 3 of the tracks.
Right.
So Melbourne, Bahrain, and Monaco. So can't wait to race in Melbourne, and then obviously can't race to race in Monaco. So it's gonna be cool.
Never watched them race in Monaco as well?
I've never actually been to the track, no.
That's crazy.
Only on TV.
Maybe you will.
Yeah, because we're always racing on the same weekends.
Okay, that's true.
Always on the racing on the same weekends.
Well, like I said, I've been to Monaco last year, and you're up for a treat, man.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's an amazing experience. We were in one of the terraces that's overlooking, I don't even know how to describe it. Pretty much after turn 1, that uphill, we were literally there.
Yeah,
and you're seeing everything, the yacht. The whole city's in lockdown.
Yeah,
like everywhere's locked. No cars are allowed to drive in. No. The whole city shuts down.
Yeah.
And so many celebrities, crashes everywhere. Yeah. So obviously, as a fan, you love seeing crashes. Yeah. I don't know why we're psychotic like that. Like we just love seeing people in misery. Like what's wrong with us, right? It's demented how fans think. But like crashes are bound to happen so as a fan, you're gonna see that.
Yeah.
And as a driver, again, I can't comment, but you know, when I play the F1 game, I can't race in Formula 1. It's ridiculously hard.
Yeah, so.
I always skip that track. So I wish you the best in Monaco. I wish you the best in Albert Park. I'll be there. Yeah. If you see me on the crowd, just wave, which I doubt you will. But like honestly, it's great having you on, man.
Perfect,
and like I said, we've never had a racer, someone so young that could potentially be something so amazing. Yeah. Right, and if you do reach unbelievable heights, don't forget us.
Yeah, I won't. For sure.
Don't forget the podcast where you landed at 6:30 in the morning from Italy, and you came here. And as I walked in, you were half naked, changing your car. Like it's been a great experience, Wade. It's been a great experience, man. Look, I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you very much.
And considering that you've been racing for so long, you've been thinking about Formula One for so long. It would be absolutely heartbreak, you know, male to male. You will always have dreams.
Yeah.
I want to become a soccer player. Back in the days, didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, playing soccer at a young age. And when you don't get things, when you strive for things and you don't get it, it's absolute heartbreak, right? People get into depressions. People get into all sorts of things. Yeah. You know, when people go into F1 and they leave F1 after a year, like it affects people, right? And when you have a target and you don't reach it, it affects people, right? Sure. So obviously, I wish you the best. I hope you make it to F1.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you win Albert Park.
Same.
Right? It will be amazing to have the first Aussie win. And thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for landing and then running here. Really do appreciate it, man. Honestly, it's an absolute honor having you on. And like I said, don't forget us. Yeah, maybe follow me on Instagram so we keep in touch. I've never said that to a guest. I'm saying it to you because I don't know, man. I feel like you'll make it. I don't know what it is. You're an Aussie. You're an ART. Good pedigree over there.
Maybe we could sponsor him.
Yeah, maybe we could sponsor him. Hey, man.
To be honest, when the camera comes off, we can have a chat.
Honestly, it's definitely something to consider because I did speak to Dad about it because Dad's the CEO, right? So I spoke to him like, you know, we need to sponsor a driver, man. Yeah. Like we need it. F3, but F2, F1.
It's something that as a driver is more appreciated than even signing for a team is having someone that will like support you because at the end of the day it's like you're putting an investment into something that it's actually something like it's not like you don't know if it's gonna happen. Like if I have the right people behind me, I can make Formula One. So like at the end of the day, it's something that we need at the end of the day, and it's something that we appreciate more than what they actually I think, understand.
100%. I agree, man. But on that note, we'll leave it over here. Thank you. I gave a whole thank you speech. So
thank
look,
you,
thank you, man. Honestly, wish you the best. Go get the job done for the Aussies. Be successful. Be a rock star. James, good luck, brother.
Thank you much. Thank you for having me.
Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you guys did, give us a like, subscribe, comment. It means the world to us. Tune in. Support our brother James over here. Let's make sure that, he has big following. Following him on Instagram. Maybe in this day and age, the more followers you have, the more likely you are to be in F1. Maybe, I don't know how this works.
I need some more followers. So
he needs more followers, right? And give him a follow. Support him.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.